Okay, we're going to talk about the tens facts. Let's say you start with an equation 10 multiplied by 2. An easy strategy to use for this is when you're multiplying 10 by 2, you can use your ones facts, which you already know, and you can make this a placeholder 0. 1 times 2 is 2. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tack on the 0 at the end of your number. So now we know that 10 times 2 is 20. We'll do another few examples. So we might use 10 times 6. So what we do here, again, we are going to put a line through here to hold the place of the 0. We're going to use our ones facts. 1 times 6 equals 6. And we will take the 0, move it over to the other side, and our number becomes 60. It will work for all right, let's look at the 10 facts again, but we're going to add an extension. So we started off here with 10 times 2. What if we added another 0? So now we have 100 times 2. Remember when we talked about the tens, we put a line through here to hold our 0. We're going to do the same thing with the other 0. So we know that 1 times 2 is 2. We already know that we have to tack on that first 0. And again, we're going to do it with the second 0. So 100 times 2 is 200. Down here, if we do the same thing again, we know that we're going to put a line through here just to hold our place. 1 times 6 is 6. We're going to add not only one more 0, we're going to add 2 more zeros. So now we have 1,000 times 6. We can use the same strategy, hold our places, add our 0, and then add our other 2 zeros. We come up with 6,000. Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to learn about clock facts for 5. So if we look at our clock and we go from the hour to 1, we would do 5 times 1, which equals 5, which is the same as 5 minutes after the hour. If we go to the next step, and we go to number 2 on the clock, we would write the equation 5 times 2, which would be the same as 10 minutes after the hour. Let's skip to 3. We have 5 times 3, which would be the same as 15 minutes after the hour. Let's go all the way down to 6. If we did 5 groups of 6, we are looking at 30, which is the same as 30 minutes after the hour on the clock. Let's go over to 9. And we will do 5 times 9, which is the same as 45 minutes after the hour. If we go a full rotation of the clock, all the way back up to 12, 5 times 12, we have completed a full hour on the clock, which is the same as 60 minutes.
Today we're going to learn a new multiplication strategy. It's going to be based on your doubles facts, your times 2 facts that we have already covered in class. So we're going to look at double your doubles, which is the 4 facts. Okay, so if we're thinking about 4 groups of 2, this is an easy one. Double 4 is 8. Let's up the ante a little bit and look at 4 groups of 4. Becomes a little more challenging at this point. So what you're going to do is you're going to think of this 4 as double 2's. So you're going to have 4 groups of 2, which we've already solved, 8. And we're going to add that to 4 more groups of 2. This is double our doubles, so 8 plus 8 more is 16. So 4 groups of 4 is 16. Let's take a look at what happens when we have 4 multiplied by an odd number. Let's look at 7. Again, we're going to break this 4 down into a double fact. So 2 groups of 7, we're going to add that to 2 more groups of 7. Reminding you that this is where the double, your double comes from. So we're going to double 7 and then we're going to double it again. So 2 groups of 7 is the same as 7 plus 7. So we have 14. We have 14 again. Quick mental math strategy using a front-end addition. 1 and 1 is 2, 4 and 4 is 8. No regrouping required. So our double the double fact for 4 groups of 7 is 28. Take it up a little bit higher. Let's look at 4 groups of 11 so we get some double digits in there. So we're going to think about 2 groups of 11 being 22. We're going to add that to 2 more groups of 11, which again is 22. This is where the double your double is nice because we're just doing a front-end addition strategy again and getting 44. This strategy will work for any 4 multiplication fact that you can come up with. If you wanted to really challenge yourself, you could try 4 groups of 16. Double 16 is 32. Double it again for another 32. And again, front-end addition, 3 and 3 is 6. 2 and 2 is 4. So this is going to be equal to 64.
The next strategy we're going to talk about is called the rounding up strategy. And we'll use the digit 9 in all the equations we're going to use when we're implementing this strategy. We start off with 9 multiplied by 7. Now it's important to focus in on the 9. And what we're going to do with that 9 is we're going to make it into a very simple number to multiply by. We're going to make it into a 10. And how do you do that? Just simply by adding 1. So 1 plus 9 equals 10. Now that we have the number 10, it's much easier to multiply 7 by 10 than it is to multiply 7 by 9. 10 times 7, use the other strategy we've already encountered, the tack-on strategy. So we eliminate the 0 out of the equation. You multiply 1 times 7, and then you tack on your 0. 10 times 7 is 70. But the problem is, what do we do when we've added on the 1 to round up to 10? Well, the simple expression is, once you add on, you have to take it back. So we're going to take this back. But we're not going to just take back a 1. We're going to take back a 1 multiplied 7 because we're really saying that 9 times 7 or 10 times 7 is simply 9 times 7, which is also the same as adding 1. So it's 1 times 7. 1 times 7 equals 7. And then, again, you take away. And you have 63. So if we start all over again, if we looked at the same thing again, 9 times 8, you add on to round up, multiply by 8, tack on method, then you have to take away your 1 times 8, subtract, and there's your rounding up strategy.
Hi, grade 4s and 5s. Today we are going to be talking about a strategy to multiply the number 12. So we're going to look at what seems like a tough number to multiply by. We'll look at 12 multiplied by 6 as our example. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about breaking 12 down into nice numbers. Numbers we don't have to work too hard to think about. And in this case, it's going to be 10 and 2, because 10 and 2 equal 12. So we will think about 10 groups of 6, which is based on the strategy that we've already done. We look at one group of 6 being 6, placeholder 0, moving across, so we have 10 groups of 6 is 60. The second part we're going to look at today is looking at our double fact. Double 6, which we've already learned, is 12, which is the same as 6 plus 6. What we're going to do once we have these two numbers is we are going to add them together. 60 plus one group of 10 and 2 more is 72. So your answer for that question is 72. Let's take a look at another example. Let's look at 12 groups of 9. Same strategy. Think of 12 as 10 and 2 more. We're going to work with 10 groups of 9 to start. Again, using our 10 facts, 10 times 9 is 90. Then we're going to come back and we're going to look at what does double 9 give us. Double 9 is 9 plus 9, which is 18. 90 plus 10 more is 100, and then we'll deal with our 8 in the ones place, so our total is 108. Try it for yourself.
Okay, our next strategy we're going to be looking at what to do when you encounter 6, 7, or 8 as multiples in your equation. You would see these type of problems when you multiply 6 times 6, 6 times 7, 6 times 8, 7 times 6, 7 times 7, 7 times 8, or 8 times 6, 8 times 7, 8 times 8. If you were to look at something, if you were to look at 8 times 8, 8 times 9, you would use a different strategy altogether. If you're looking at something smaller, 8 times 5, you would recall back to your clock facts. So it would start off simple. We'll start off with 6 times 7. So when you start off with 6 times 7, you have to go back and think to yourself, well, how does one of those numbers break down to give me more simple multiples that I can easily multiply by the second digit? For example, 6, we know, is nothing more than 5 plus 1. So now we have very simple numbers to multiply by. We have 5 here, which if you recall back, is a process of clock facts. 7 groups of 5s, you think back to your clock, 35 minutes. And then the 1, well, 1 times 7 is nothing more than 1 plate of 7 cookies. How many cookies do you have in the end? You have 7 cookies. You add those two digits together, and you have 42. Let's try that again with something a little bit more difficult. If we looked at 7 times 8. You can make a choice. You can choose whether you want to break down your 7 or break down your 8. If you break down your 8, you're going to be looking at 5 times 5 and 3. And some of you might have trouble remembering what 7 times 3 is. Well, you can break that down even further. You can say that 5 and 2 and 1, much friendlier numbers now, is much easier to multiply by. Unfortunately, that means also you have to take more steps. So choosing the 8 to break it down may not be the preferential choice here. You may choose to go with the 7, which is a lot easier to break down into 5 and 2. One less step. Now, going back to what we learned about before about clock facts, 5 times 8, think about the clock, where the position of the clock, the 8 is on the clock, and you think to yourself, how many minutes does that represent? Well, you go around, it's a little bit more than 6, because it's a little bit more 6 times 5, so it's 30. It's more than that. 7 times 5 is 35. 8, you skip jump, 40. Then we have 2 times 8, which is nothing more than a double process. You take 8, 8 plus 8, or 2 times 8, is 16. And you end up with the number 56. So these numbers here, 6, 7, 8, which look a little bit intimidating, can be quite simple to do once you start to break them down.